To move the motion, I call Mr. Robert Halfon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I beg to move the motion. I'm very grateful to my honourable friend, the chairman of the Backbench Committee. I'm glad to say, although I had problems with the proposals on Monday evening, I'm glad to say that I still will be able to vote for her should she decide to stand for a second term. I noticed that I only had to appear before the Backbench Committee twice this time, as opposed to 3 times last time. But nevertheless, I'm very grateful. I also want to thank the honourable members for Bolton South and for Bolton South East and for Lincoln, who came with me to the Backbench Committee, and my tellers today, the honourable member for Cleethorpes and the honourable member for North West Leicestershire. And above all, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I must thank the chairman of the House of Commons Commission, the honourable member for Caithness, because at all times the honourable member has been courteous and I would say outstanding in any problem I've ever had in dealing with this thing. And whilst I may have disagreements, as I will set out, I believe that he is an outstanding chairman, and I wish I had the chance to vote for him were the Commission democratically elected. Now, I have 3 points to make in this debate. 3 points to make in this debate about the planned charges for Big Ben Clock Tower. First of all, that this decision is unprecedented, but nevertheless creates a dangerous precedent. Secondly, that it is actually being decided in a somewhat undemocratic manner. And thirdly, the decision is unnecessary and unaffordable. And I want to deal with these points in turn. It is true that the House of Commons charges for tours when the Parliament is not sitting. But this is the first time it has chosen to charge for tours during parliamentary hours, and particularly tours organised by members of Parliament. Now, those who support the charges argue that Big Ben is not part of our democracy, simply an adornment, a luxury, if you like. Now, I would say that this is patently not true. Big Ben is not only the most recognisable British icon in the world, but also the most recognisably parliamentary icon. I'll give way to the honourable gentleman.
I'm most grateful, Mr. Deputy Speaker, but surely Her Majesty the Queen is the most recognised icon in the world.
I'm delighted to see that the Labour Party have suddenly become monarchists after all these years.
Brandon Lewis from Great Yarmouth, Mr. Deputy Speaker. But I would just say to my honourable friend, just a couple of weeks ago I was with a primary school in Great Yarmouth where they were raising the issue of wanting to come down to the House of Commons for a tour, and the young children there, who were 5 and 6, were talking just specifically about Big Ben. And the head teacher was saying they'd love to come, but coming from that part of Norfolk all the way here is expensive enough as it is. I just wonder if he would agree with me, if we had a price then for Big Ben, the very thing some of these children want to come and see, it would put it beyond the reach of people in areas such as Great Yarmouth.
As so often, my honourable friend speaks for the common man, and he's absolutely right, and he'll see in remarks I make later on in my speech that I agree with him completely. I'll give way one more time, then I'll carry on. I'll give my way to my honourable friend for Dover.
Thank my honourable friend for giving way. Honourable friend, mutual honourable friend, the member for Caithness, has the unenviable task of having to balance the budget for the Administration Committee. But is not the better way to see it is though Houses of Parliament and access to House of Parliament are treated like museums with free access as a principle and not balanced off the backs of the Administration Committee?
My honourable friend, as always, makes a very good point, and I'm going to talk about these issues later on in my remarks. Now, history books tell us that the bells of the great clock of Westminster rang across London for the first time on the 31st of May 1859, and Parliament had a special sitting to decide on a suitable name for the great hour bell. And during the course of the debate, there were many suggestions that were made, and it is alleged that Chief Lord of Woods and Forest, Sir Benjamin Hall, a large and ponderous man, known affectionately in the House as Big Ben, rose and gave an impressively long speech on the subject. And Wag in the chamber shouted out, "Why not call him Big Ben and have done with it?" the House erupted in laughter Big Ben had been named. Now, there are many stories as to the reasons why Big Ben is called Big Ben, but I illustrate it to my honourable friends to show the importance of Big Ben and the fact that there was a parliamentary debate when the bell was brought to Parliament, to show how central it is to our parliamentary democracy. Now, please.
I'm very grateful. If I could disagree gently with the Honourable Member for Dover, this place is not a museum, but a democratic institution which should be available free of charge for members to organise for their constituents to visit every part of it. And can I therefore congratulate the Honourable Member on the debate and say to him he's right that this could set a precedent, and there is a danger if we start hiring this place out to corporate companies and to massive banks and so on, that we will lose the essence of this democratic house.
I think the honourable member opposite has hit the nail on the head, and in my conclusion I'm going to repeat some of the things that he has said. I think he points to a very great danger of how our Parliament is in danger of what our Parliament is in danger of becoming. Okay.
My friend quite rightly talks about the different suggestions of why Big Ben is called Big Ben, and I'd want him to not lose part of the argument, which is that this Big Ben is not just for Parliament, it's for the wider populace. Indeed, it's part of popular culture. It was indeed then. Many say that Big Ben was called Big Ben because of Benjamin Corn, the prize fighter who had a rather large stomach, and that just shows the attraction to the public and why we must make it as accessible as possible.
Of course, my honourable friend, who has been a friend for many years, is absolutely right. Now to say that therefore Big Ben is an adornment, is not part of our democracy, is clearly not the case. Moreover, Mr. Deputy Speaker, those who claim it is not part of our democracy and then say, oh, we don't charge for tours elsewhere, might ask themselves why it is we are actually charging for tours during the summer and on weekends. Now, I argue that it's unprecedented, but it creates a dangerous precedent. Why? Because now they have brought this in. What's going to happen when they say they want to charge in a few years' time to go through Westminster Hall or go to see the Royal Galleries? Now, of course, they will say today, and I believe the honourable gentleman for Caithness and the Leader of the House and the Speaker and so on, that of course nothing like that would ever happen. And I agree with them in the sense that they are benign. But who's to say in future years there won't be such benign individuals such as yourselves, and that these decisions will be made?
Well, my old friend Lammy, I'm grateful for my old friend, but would you not accept there's a clear distinction between viewing democracy in action here in the chamber from the gallery in the committee rooms and touring Big Ben, which is fascinating. You can see the mechanism of the clock and you can see the little room which MPs are incarcerated, but in no way is that central to our democracy, other than viewing and being able to be part of, in some small way, what goes on in this chamber and in committee rooms. There's clearly a distinction between the two.
This is where I have a fundamental disagreement with the honourable my friend and with people who believe that we should charge for Big Ben. I believe Big Ben is central to the whole of Parliament. It is the symbol of Parliament. If you ask anyone what is the one symbol of Parliament in the United Kingdom, everyone will know, and across the world they will say Big Ben. So to say that it's just a separate thing and a tourist thing, I think is, in my view, completely wrong. Now, of course,
grateful to the honourable member and congratulate him on bringing this motion to the House today. And he's absolutely right to say that Big Ben is integral to the fabric of democracy and the institution here at Westminster. And visitors coming from Northern Ireland, I know from personal experience, one of the first things they say, is it possible to visit Big Ben and get up the tower? So to charge people to do that who have come all the way from Northern Ireland, paid their airfares, would be outrageous in my view and put them off coming to Westminster.
My honourable friend is, of course, right in what he says, and the people have been in Northern Ireland have been victims of terrorism, and they will know that the bells of Big Ben rang through the Blitz and has a central part to everything good about being British. Now, I argue that it's an undemocratic decision because it has been made by the House of Commons Commission. Now, I think this decision creates a can of worms. Yes, there has been some consultations and some chats with MPs and discussions and emails, but surely we in this House should have a say over major decisions over the costing and planning of expenditure at Westminster. Now, there is, from the Commission, they say that we have to cut 17% from Parliament's budget. Now, I recognise, as does everybody else, that we have to make cuts. And maybe the 17% figure is the right one, maybe it is the wrong one, maybe it should be 20%, maybe it should be 15%. But we in this House, in this chamber, have had no say on that figure, and that is wrong. The savings that the Commission are making, they should come to the House and present them in a list, and then MPs should have the right to say whether or not they agree or disagree and answer to our constituents whether or not we are giving the taxpayer value for money. And the plans to charge for Big Ben raise much wider issues as to whether the remit of the Commons Commission, whether or not members should be elected. I give way to the Honourable Lady.
The Honourable Member and I fully support him in his motion today. And talking about savings of the House, would the Honourable Member not agree that very much of what the Commission does is totally undemocratic, and we never get asked, and we suddenly find out about it from other people who work in this House? Would he not think that what's happened in the House over the last period of 5 or 6 years, it has become incredibly top-heavy with managers who are managing everything and have no understanding of what's going on at the bottom here in the House of Commons?
I agree with the Honourable Lady. Sadly, I think that's true for the whole of the public sector rather than just Parliament. But she makes a very powerful point. Now, my next argument is that this is actually an unnecessary decision. Now, the Commission states that the clock tower tours at the moment cost roughly £93,000, and it will go up to about £111,000 over the next year or so. Well, I would question that argument, because given that you are now going to bring in charges, whether or not as many people would come, I suspect many won't be able to afford to come. And I know from an email that I've received that up to 200 people have emailed asking for clock towers tours in order to try and avoid the cut-off date. As I said, Parliament needs to debate time where these savings could be made. But we need to think first in generalities, and then I will offer some specific savings for other members to consider. We look at the cost of publications and press cuttings. Dining rooms. The dining rooms on Monday are barely used, for example, at lunchtime. So, for example, one of the dining rooms could be closed at lunchtime. That could save a fair bit of money. Properties owned by the House of Commons. Now, the other thing which has really disturbed me, and I welcome the private members' bill brought by the Honourable Member for Bristol East yesterday about the waste of food yesterday. The waste of food in this place is absolutely obscene. Now, when I went the other day to the members' dining room, I was told by the staff, who are wonderful and hard-working, I said, how many people had been in here today? They said about 3. This is on a Monday lunchtime. There was a huge banquet of food, as there always is. And I said, what happens to the food? And they said, well, it has to get thrown away. And I said, well, why can't it be given to charity, or why can't there be less food made? And the answer on the charity was, they said that they might be sued in case anyone had contamination or food poisoning. Now, I tabled a written question to ask the House of Commons Commission about how much is wasted, how much food is thrown away in the last year, and it is a shocking figure of £100,000. I mean, that can't continue. When we talk about savings, we should be looking at this really seriously, and MPs again should have a chance to debate this. Now, I realise I have to...
I'm most grateful. Just before he leaves that point, on this issue of savings, he's given us the costs of the clock tower tours at around £100,000 a year. Given that they are likely to diminish in number as a result of charging, has anybody given him the figures for the cost of employing the person to administer the charging scheme? And does he know how much that total project is going to cost in terms of administration? Because I suspect it might be more than £100,000.
Well, I think my honourable gentleman, as so often, has come up with a really good question, which I hope that the Chairman of the Commission or the Leader of the House will be able to answer. But yes, we can't just talk in generalities, so I'm here to propose to the Commission some real savings, and I'm grateful to...
Give way on that point.
Please.
I will expand on this point in my contribution should I catch this Mr. Speaker's eye, but I've actually discovered through questioning that it's £1.5 million additional ongoing costs simply to come back for the 2 weeks and then go off for the 2 weeks. And if we compress that time and didn't have a break for party conferences, which are for political purposes after all, we could save £1.5 million.
Well, my honourable friend makes a point, and augments my argument that we should be able to debate on the floor of this House, not just through consultations or filling out surveys that people rarely see on their emails. Now, I'm very grateful to the Director of the Savings Programme and the Secretary of the Commission for providing me with a lot of detail about the important work that the Commission are doing to save money, and I recognise that a lot of savings are being made. But let me just add a few. Cut corporate initiatives by an additional 10%, saving $150,000 a year. 80% of that budget would still remain. Trim overseas trips and delegations by just 10%, saving $125,000 a year, and 80% of the budget would remain. Streamline parliamentary outreach by just 10% in both the Commons and the House of Lords, and that would save £194,000 a year. 80% of the budget would still remain. Total savings is £469,000 a year. Now, there may be other ideas that other members have, but we have never had the chance to properly debate this, what savings there should be and what there shouldn't be on the floor of this House. And that is why this decision that has been made is fundamentally wrong. Now, I also have said that this is an unaffordable decision. We got our email late on a Friday afternoon a couple of weeks ago saying that individuals would be charged £15 a head. A family of four would have to pay £6. For people on average earnings of just $20,000 odd, that is just unaffordable and will discourage people from coming to Parliament and coming to see Big Ben. And going back to the precedent argument, even if this figure was reduced, and a couple of weeks ago, saying that individuals would be charged £15 a head. A family of four would have to pay £6. For people on average earnings of just $20,000 odd, that is just unaffordable and will discourage people from coming to Parliament and coming to see Big Ben. And going back to the precedent argument, even if this figure was reduced, and I accept that the Chairman of the Commission said that they would look at this, it would most likely increase in future years. First it's £15, 2 years' time it's £20, then it's £30, and then £40, and then £50, and where does it stop?
My honourable friend give way on that point. I thank my honourable friend for giving way. Would my honourable friend agree with me that one of the most important pillars of our democracy is in fact transparency, and that transparency in part is the fact that this palace is open to the public and we encourage the public to come and visit their parliament, not just our parliament, and we shouldn't be putting them off with petty charges?
Well, my friend makes a very important point in that my view is that what the House of Commons Commission have done is come up with the easy option. There's money that needs to be saved, so why not target the members of the public who can't really fight back? And why not just slap at a charge? It's the easy option, and that is why this decision, I believe, is so wrong. Now, there is a tourist leaflet which is sold in most of the tourist shops around Westminster. And I quote it, and it says, "Who owns Big Ben? You do. If you are a citizen of the UK, and if you pay taxes, you are one of the owners of Big Ben. In fact, you own the whole clock tower and the Houses of Parliament too." And this is something that the British people believe, and this is why it is so wrong to suddenly institute charges for people to come and see our heritage and in essence impose double taxation because we pay for Parliament anyway.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way, and I'm very interested to hear his comments on this point. That he mentioned the fact that it's for British taxpayers. As no foreigner is currently allowed at Big Ben, we've obviously managed to twist some sort of rules about how we treat these dodgy foreigners, and therefore should we not then stitch them up like we do in the summer and charge for them to go up to Big Ben?
I could rely on my honourable friend to ask such a question, but yes, I have no objections to people who are British citizens to paying to come.
Allow me on that very point. Perhaps I could be helpful. I have been looking into this. My honourable friend might be pleased to know that the reason given is because 2 weeks' clearance is needed for security checks for those people of passport holders to be able to go through to Big Ben. So potentially with visitors, foreign or otherwise, that may be allowed to happen. So that might be the answer.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend for the information, and I hope these points are brought out in discussion. Finally, in conclusion, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I have a romantic belief in Parliament. I still genuinely believe that this is the best Parliament in the world, even with all the problems we face as a country. I came here as a small boy when I was this old, and I wanted to sit in this place from that day on. Now, we have to make our Parliament a very special place and encourage people to come. The Honourable Gentleman made a very important point a moment ago. I hugely worry that this place is becoming something which is, rather than a parliament for the people, a place that is, as the Honourable Lady says, a theme park advertising weddings, bar mitzvahs and engagement parties or big corporate entertainment shows. I have no problem with businesses coming here and having dinners where we discuss particular issues. But we are not a theme park. We should not be selling ourselves short to businesses and hiring them out when ordinary people cannot come here and hire out, and they will inevitably get privilege over ordinary people. And I'm reminded of the parable of the money lenders at the temple. You know, let's not become a place of just money lenders and about money, money, money. Let's be the parliament of the people, by the people, for the people. Now,
on that point, I'm very grateful. He's been very generous. On that rather churchy theme in relation to the temple, would he not note that people who want to pray in our great cathedrals do so, of course, free of charge, but if they want to be there as sightseers, they're invited to pay a fee. And in a similar way, people wishing to participate in democracy here can view the proceedings, but if they want to go and be sightseers in the Tower, might perhaps be invited to contribute.
I have 2 points to answer. First of all, this Parliament is our democracy slightly different. Second of all, people who go to churches don't already pay for local churches in their taxes. We pay for Parliament through our taxation already, so why should we be taxed again? Now, my final point, Mr Deputy Speaker, is that perhaps the House of Commons Commission could look at setting up a foundation to look at the heritage of Big Ben and to keep Big Ben tours free. And in that interest, I will make a pledge, Mr Deputy Speaker, and to the Chairman of the Commons Commission. Some of the members will know that I have difficulties with my legs, but I will make a pledge to walk up Big Ben, to raise money for Big Ben, so we can keep our Parliament free for all our citizens and ensure as many people come to see our greatest landmark for many years to come.